Hi, this is Larry Hatch for Cultivar.org, and I'm the Horticultural Taxonomist with the organization. And today's topic is a tough one. It's Zebrina pendula, sorting out the cultivars. And yes, we are going to go there. It's a little bit of a deep end, but I've had a lot of experience with them. I worked with a lot of experts. We've done our taxonomic research, so we're not based on our findings on what somebody on Facebook or Instagram says, pooled ignorance, basically. We're looking at real experts, real literature, real documentation, real collections, and we've sorted these things out. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to bring some clarity, I hope, to you guys. If you want to kind of skip the video for now, you can go to cultivar.org and just click on the button that says Cameline ACE, and that'll show you our whole file that has these images and our data. And that's all free, 100% free, no sign up, no credit cards, no nothing, just click, it's there. So let's, without further ado, I'm going to use this picture as my sort of standard of what Zebrina pendula is. Some people call it Tradescantia pendula, but it's really in the separate genus Zebrina, which is Latin for zebra. And there's different variations in color and in the banding and in variegation, and we're going to get deep into that and answer a lot of questions that people have. So please, in the comments, if you have a thought, ask some questions. But please go to the website first, because a lot of those are going to be answered there. And this is some of the research we do. We bought these 4 plants from reliable sources and scanned them with a flatbed scanner to kind of show some differences. One of the differences is that they've been selected over the years, literally over a century, for more silver, wider silver bands, and you can see the variation of these. But the one called Silver Plus is the most silvery, and those bands can be up to a full centimeter wide. They're really impressive. The base color is kind of a dark muted purple. It turns into an olive green, but those huge silver bands are really spectacular. They also come in darker purple shades, and this one, Dark Desire, is very popular. It's a very dark, sometimes blackish purple. You grow it in a lot of light. It can get very dark, really dark in a hurry, and the bands are kind of species typical. Generally not more than 5 to 8 millimeters wide. And you can compare it to Silver Plus. It's very different, very distinct. Let's look at the bottom right hand side. That's a cultivar named Discolor, and it is discolored. It doesn't have a lot of purple on it except below. There's very little purple on the upper side except on the kind of base of the midrib. And it has very little silver. The silver is what we call discontinuous. It's not a continuous or connected band. It's usually a series of lines or spots. And people do like it, though, because it is sort of the green form of the species. And it sorts very nicely with the silvery and purple varieties. And that's an old variety, Discolor. There was a mutation of it that happened many years ago, and that's the one above it called Discolor Multicolor. It goes by a lot of names. People call it Multicolor Discolor, but the Discolor Multicolor scientifically in the literature is accurate. People call it lots of different things, but the way that you distinguish it is that it has those discontinuous lines like Discolor. It's not a solid band of silver underneath the variegation, and the variegation is in shades of cream to yellow to rose red to muted silvery pink to silvery yellow, and it's highly variable. It reverts and partially reverts, and there's also what we call a flourish with a chimera, where it gets more colorful on some shoots than others. But it's important to propagate only from the most variegated material, or it will completely turn into discolor again. But again, look carefully. It's got those parallel lines and parallel spots of silver, not a continuous thick silver band. That's going to be very important, because there are two other variegated cultivars we're going to compare it with in just a bit. As we said, they selected for darker forms. Dark Desire is popular, but this one that Costa Farms, aka Exotic Angel, has been selling lately is called Burgundy, and it is a very dark metallic purple. But unlike Dark Desire, the silver bands are overlaid in pigment. So it's basically a dark violet purple, and you can question whether it's burgundy. I've never had a burgundy wine that was this color, but anyway, it's a dark, almost blackish violet or blackish purple, but the bands are a metallic lavender shade. They're not a silver, although they can fade to silver a little bit, but in the newer growth, the bands are definitely a metallic lilac, lavender, whatever you want to call it, and not a silver. So that's a very interesting one. Let's get back to our original plate of 4 again. Again, Discolor Multicolor has got yellow, cream, pink stripes in it, but again, discontinuous silver bands, parallel silver lines, parallel silver spots, not a lot of silver going on. And that contrasts with the second variegated form, which you will probably call quadricolor. And if you look carefully, that's got really wide, really big silver bands. It can be very yellow, but it tends to be more of a pink chimera, and very often half the blade or a third of the blade will be the variegation or the chimera, and it often has a dark green center like you see here around the midrib. Unfortunately, if we go back to the literature, and we have to do that because Latin cultivar names, plant names, are based on their publication. So the name quadricolor came from Voss and was later adopted by L.H. Bailey, who described it as identical to Discolor Multicolor. And so the name quadricolor is a synonym of multicolor or Discolor Multicolor, and therefore it should not be used for this modern plant. It cannot be. You can't repurpose a name. It's just, you can do that in a commercial product, but you cannot do that in plant names. You cannot take one thing that's a synonym of something else and repurpose it for something else. So the question is, what is this quadricolor, and does it need a new name? Since the original quadricolor was Discolor Multicolor. Well, let's go back to the old literature. Unfortunately, we have a beautiful color plate of this plant from France. It was called Multicolor Madame Luquesne, and this is a picture from Revue de la Horticulture Belgique. Probably mangling that. It's very colorful. It's got yellow and pink stripes in it, just like our modern quadricolor. And if you look kind of at that leaf in the middle, that's got the other one coming over it, you can see that it does have silver bands alternating with some green bands. So it does have a lot of silver. It does have a brightly colored chimera and a big dark green center. So we are considering the Madame Duquesne to be this original standard from the old literature, and that is the correct name of the modern quadricolor. Again, quadricolor is a synonym of discolor, multicolor, and cannot be repurposed for this other plant. Somewhere they got mixed up. I think it was A.B. Groff in Exotica or Tropica who called this plant quadricolor, and that was, although he's normally absolutely right on most things, this is one. He doesn't even mention Madame Duquesne, which is in all the old literature from the 1800s. So the modern quadricolor is actually Madame Duquesne, this exact plant here. Again, remember, discolor, multicolor has very thin silver lines on it, kind of parallel spots, parallel lines, discontinuous, whereas the so-called quadricolor, which is Madame Duquesne, has these metallic silver bands of considerable size alternating with the dark green. So I think that straightens out two of them so far. And let's go on to the third variegated form, which is a newer one that's becoming popular. And people realized that, well, it's a little like multicolor, discolor, but it's got a lot of silver in it. It's got thin silver lines, and it's got a chimera with thinner stripes. In other words, it's not what we call a sector. Discolor, multicolor, and Madame Duquesne, aka quadricolor, has big sectors of chimera, big sections, half or third of the blade. This new mutation, and we go into some of its history in the website, is called Danny Lee. It was called Silver Notches, but Danny Lee is the originator's desirable name for it. And it's got silver stripes and a very stripy, finely striped chimera overlaid in violet red. And I think if you go back and forth, you can see it's not multicolor. It's not discolor, multicolor. It's its own thing with very elaborate stripes. It's got more than 4 colors, believe me. And it's a very fine striping. And Danny Lee is a really, really great plant. So hopefully if you review these pictures, we have discolor, multicolor, also known as multicolor, and quadricolor. And then we have the so-called quadricolor, which is really Madame Duquesne. And then we have Danny Lee, aka Silver Notches. God knows how many other names there are for these things. If you disagree, please provide evidence. Don't say, no, you're wrong. Because we've had a lot of experts dig through the literature and ransack the stuff, work in collections both in Europe and the United States, and we're very confident that this is correct. But again, if you have some evidence, not like Joe on Instagram says, I'm sorry, that doesn't matter, real evidence, real literature, real documentation of a scientific type, please share with us, because we will correct ourselves. The next cultivar is called Flame Dancer, and I know the term Flame Dancer has been used for other things, probably including Madame Duquesne, but this, I believe, is the real Flame Dancer. It's similar to discolor. Again, very subtle silver lines in it, not a silver band. But unlike discolor, it's got a big, big, big violet red midrib, and it's flushed on the new growth, the same violet red around the midrib. It's a very vivid violet red below, and in bright light, the margins are also violet red. So it's sort of like a boring green discolor that's had some suffusions of violet red around the midrib and the margins with more color. It remains to be seen if Flame Dancer is the best name for it. There's a lot of confusion, so we could probably use some help on this one. The next one is confused because it is highly variable with growing conditions especially light. It's called red gem. And I'm showing this picture because it's backlit with sun. And this is what red gem should be. It should be red. Kind of a nice rosy red, pinkish red. Sometimes it can actually be a kind of an amber orangish red too. And but it's not the classic dark violet red with silver. It's got very subtle silver, but the silver bands are wide. But when it's backlit like this, it's a much paler violet red to rose red. And yeah, the name red gem fits. It is a little more compact, so it's kind of a gem, but it's still strong. So this is our standard for red gem. It's going to vary a lot. It can look like other things when it's not getting enough light. Our next plant is called Purpusii, Purpusii, and it has been considered a separate species of Zebrina. It's also been considered a botanical variety of Zebrina pendula. So typically there's the Zebrina pendula variety pendula, which has got silver bands. And if you accept this as Zebrina pendula variety Purpusii, it generally lacks the silver bands. But it has some silver lines in it. The new growth is kind of a very dark violet red, and as you can see here, it tends to get a little stripy. The parallel veins stay redder, whereas this interveinal or between the vein spaces turn green, and it's a very distinct plant once you see it. Again, don't confuse it with a red gem, because red gem does have silver bands that are distinct. This one is basically red and green striped for the most part. And this picture is a pretty good example of what it should look like. Now, when I say red and green stripe, we've also got another red and green stripe, which I have grown, and it's considered Tradescantia zebrina mollipilla, which means soft hairs, purple plush. Now, this is not the purple plush that belongs to the genus Gibbasus, pellucida or Gibbasus geniculata. It's probably a pellucida. It's not that purple plush. This is something different. And again, it belongs to a second or maybe third variety of Zebrina pendula called mollipilla. And it's a more of a soft-haired variety. But as you can see here, it's got very distinct green and purple stripes on it. So it could be confused with Purpusii, but these stripes are more bold. The green stripes are more overt and wider. And I've grown it. To me, the leaf is a smaller leaf, wider. It's more of an ovate leaf, whereas Zebrina pendula kind of has a very pointed, broadly elliptical leaf for the most part, with a very acuminate apex. This thing generally has a slightly rounded apex, not quite obtuse, but a short acute, and it's a much more oval leaf. And again, compared to Purpusii, with those subtle green and red stripes, this one is much bolder. Now, the plant I had, I grew it in sun, not from this particular source, by the way, but it was from another source. Turned all purple for the most part with the light I had. It kind of lost a lot of its green stripes, but I didn't have a digital camera at the time. There's a scan of another plant that we bought on the website, but the leaves were not in really good shape, so I'm not showing that here. But anyway, if you go to the website, there's a lot of stuff there, not just Zebrinas, but all the Tradescantias we know about, the Gibbasuses, the Roeas, the Tradescantia pallida, also known formally as, well, all kinds of things. So we've got all the Camelinides in the family Camelinaceae in this one file for convenience, and you can kind of flip back and forth and look at them. Again, please help us out. If you've got different opinions or ideas, please provide evidence. And if you can provide a photograph or a scan with documentation as to why the name is what it is, that would be terrific. And again, go to cultivar.org, click that button on Camelinaceae or the other genera. I know a lot of you collect other houseplants. We're trying to build a very comprehensive encyclopedia. We've got over 193 syngoniums, 1,600 different coleuses, several hundred agaves, plectranthus, dozens of those, scores of philodendrons, I think like 80 some ficuses, almost 100 peperomias, like 50 pileas, cultivars. So, we're building a resource here that's going to be second to none. And so give us a look, share your thoughts. But again, please provide documentation. And if it's an opinion, we'll take that. But it needs to be an informed opinion based on something, please. Some people say, oh, you're a bunch of idiots, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, okay, where are we wrong? And prove it. And then you say, prove it. Oh, they're like, oh, well, some guy I know somewhere said something else. Well, I'm sorry, that's not going to fly with us. But we really, if you do have documentation, and we are working with some experts in these genera, and we are citing literature. So if you go to our website, you'll see literature references, links to papers, scientific papers, links to collector sites where they give informed opinions with documentation. We're willing to have alternate opinions, like, well, this is one version of the plant, this is another version, and we try to find out which one is the original, and then rename the others. We are in the process of naming a number of Tradescantia that need names, and so on. So please work with us. We'd really appreciate it. And again, this is a worldwide community. This site is not monetized, by the way. Maybe it will be in the future. We're looking for support, donations to help with our research. It costs a lot of money to travel to collections and to acquire plants and propagate plants. This is not a nursery, and but it does require a lot of funds to purchase plants and study them. I mean, just the cameras alone are considerably expensive, so please help us out with this and give us a look. Thank you again for your time.